Hi everyone. Welcome back to Jola Speaks. Thank you for joining me once again today. Today we're going to look at a difficult situation or a difficult example of submission, which Yinka provided in his own experience. And I've titled this episode the one he prepared for me, and it's also tied into marriage because that was where the example was. And I feel it's very important episode because it shows us a lot of processes regarding submission. And even when we fall and we fail, right, as an example, God still loves us. He's still our Father, and He will still help us and lead us back to the will and purpose that He has called us to be. So stay tuned, watch, listen, learn, and I'll be back shortly.
And in your life personally, what will you say has been the hardest thing to submit to God?
Whoa. Okay. So this is funny, but I'll put it up there. It wasn't really so. The pastoral yielding to the pastoral calling wasn't really hard. But you see, marriage was a tricky one. Now, marriage was a tricky one for me because I remember in the season I was preparing to get married.
Yes.
I had this MacBook where I wrote the qualities I wanted in my ideal woman. Because I list the principle of write down the vision, make it
plain.
And so I was defining, I was writing, and then every time I met people, gatherings, and I saw qualities I admired, I will take
this
that lady spoke.
This is her.
She must be
well
articulated. No, I just admired the qualities.
Yes.
I would
add it.
It's like I'm building, customizing my own
book.
So I was
at the door.
And this list was going on for 3 years.
Wow.
So it was a long list. At some point, I had it on my MacBook. It was well written. I cherished that note because every time I was contemplating, okay, what will I do? Because when you don't know the person yet, you will start fantasizing. Oh, she looked like her. What's what I want her to look like? This what I want. So I was asking those things. So one day, in the place of prayer, I say, and at that time, my wife now had sort of been in my ecosystem, and I was privileged to know certain things about her already. And then I was praying and I was saying that, Lord, wife and da. And then you all said to me, He said, this list you have deleted. I said,
delete all your 3 years of work.
I said,
wow.
I said, no. I said, delete what? And then he said no to the one we call Lord.
You don't say no to the one you call Lord.
How big your Lord? I said no to me.
Wow.
So I said, okay, this is now getting more interesting. And then he followed it with something. Now, for those of us who may be hearing, saying, you keep saying, the Lord told you, how did you know God?
True.
These things. Now, I always say again also, part of the beauty of relationship is recognition. My sheep.
I can hear your voice.
So there is a place of
knowing
when it is His voice, because you have built a relationship with Him. When you don't have a relationship, you will struggle to this. So number one, He won't tell you to do something outside of His will. He won't tell you something outside of His word. So these are principles of hearing God.
Yes.
But in this case, He said to me, discard the list. And I was not continuing in my mind praying, why should I discard this list? Because I said no. He said, you don't.
Because now you have to analyze it.
I'm not analyzing my. Then he said something to me. He said, do you want me to give you the woman that fits this bill, or do you want me to give you the woman that I choose for you? And then at that point, I'm like, okay. Then it was clear to me what he was trying to say. You see the list I made? It is based on my own opinion. What I think I needed. What is good for me. And the little wisdom he gave to me I have only decided based on a season of life, and I've not decided based on the extent of life. You don't get married for a season, you get married for life. So what God gives you should fit your life. And the person
every
should be able to
season,
fit
yes.
the seasons of life. And at that point, I knew that because I couldn't even see beyond my nose. For example, this pastoral work now, I didn't see it coming. I could never have said that I'll pastor a church for anything. In fact, when I was getting married to my wife, I told her, I said, God did not call me to
be
pastoral work. I said, yes, I've served him, but I don't think to start in church and to be a no. I was saying it confidently with audacity. Then I married a woman who
said no to pastor,
who would not support me. Now that I'm
pastor,
the reason why I'm able to do this work well is because she's been such a blessing, supporting me.
Yes.
And that's because when God was going to give me my wife, the one He prepared for me, He had put it in the system and the mechanism that will support me in this season and in the face of my own life. But imagine if I chose that sapiosexual.
That's not
actually sapiosexual. Imagine I picked that beautiful
that exact list.
The exact list, and then you now start to look at the emotional qualities and spiritual qualities, and then you can even have people who pray in tongues, but are still going to deter you from doing the will of God.
So true.
So at that point, that was really the most difficult things for me to let go of.
Wow.
And I had to say to God, Father, I deleted it, but with pain. I said, but I trust you.
See you.
And then the Lord said to me, part of the beauty of trust is that, are you willing to go down into the well whilst I hold the rope? Because that's trust. I learned that from my mentor. Are you ready to go down into the well whilst I hold the rope for you? Knowing that I will not drop the rope and you will not fall. Then at that point I said, if it is God that is He will not let me fall. And that's it. And that's how
wow.
And I never regretted it in
I think that's a very phenomenal story of submission, because a lot of times when people speak about submission, many cases there's something that has saying, what if it doesn't work? What if I do all these things and I whatever I get is not as good as what I'm thinking? And it's the fact that God had shown you, do this for me, because if you didn't delete the list, you probably have gone somewhere else, and then you're one of your biggest life decisions.
There was a particular young lady that I was even eyeing at it. I was like, this one.
Yeah, it has to be. God, make her the one.
And then when I went, my pastors even told me, don't do it. I said, no, I'll try. And I went after, burnt me badly. Bad. In fact, I was depressed for like 3 days. I couldn't get out of bed. I was
badly burnt.
It took that submission to the will of God. And when you don't submit, you will find yourself in pain. Because
you will find yourself in pain.
You can't navigate this whole life without being accountable to
Him. Wow. Thank God for your submission. Thank God for your submission.
Thank God that He taught me and He had mercy on me. Because I told you, Jola, I'm not perfect. I went
the other way. But that being burnt brought you back.
I did though.
Sometimes one needs to be burnt. What we realize.
I was saying to myself, Lord, I'm sorry. I was begging her, I'm sorry, Lord, I'm sorry. And in fact, I violated the 2 layers of submission. It was like I violated His protocol.
Yes.
And violated my pastor's words.
Yes. I see.
I violated both systems. So there are times that in our hard-heartedness, we still bypass the protocols. And then so my pastor told me, she warned me, she said, don't do it. I did it and I got burnt.
And I guess now that you're a pastor, when someone does that, you understand.
Oh, yes. And that's another thing. So when I tell people, I don't control people.
Yes.
But there are things where people come to me and I say, by rational thinking, I don't think this is the right thing to do. There are times where I feel, thus saith the Lord. And I tell them, this is what the Lord is saying. I learn to distinguish between both. I don't say, thus saith the Lord, when it's just my rational mind.
Thinking.
So just talking heart to heart and sharing principles. But if people still choose to go the other way, my posture as a pastor is in twofold. Number one, the consequences will come If it is in your negative if it is negative consequences, I will come and find you and pull you out. That's a pastor's heart. Because even if the sheep goes astray,
the shepherd has to find. That's very, very powerful, because in some cases people have experienced what we call church hurt, where maybe they have gone astray and been burnt, and they've been left to be burnt. But if you have a pastoral heart, you are meant to even go there, leave and go and pick up the one.
Go through the consequences
together. Despite you've won them, yes, giving your heart, you still have to, pick them. Yes.
It doesn't leave us.
Yes. That's so important. Yes.
And that's a pastor's heart. And so when we walk out of it, we will dance together.
Yes.
So my mentor, who is my mentor in ministry, Reverend Dr. Samuel, he will say to me, he said, never forget. He said, we are always redemptive in our posture, because we too were redeemed.
That's so true. We too were redeemed.
And we are always redemptive in our posture. So your disobedience to my instruction that has led you astray doesn't make me disown you.
Exactly.
Otherwise, nobody here will be a child of God.
That's so true. That's so true. That's so true. That's so true. And it's important to actually state that, because a lot of times when people go to these church huts, they believe, that they got what they deserve. No, we don't. If we get what we deserve, we'll not be here on earth. And that's the honest truth.
Wow, that was welcome back. That was a very unique example. Marriage is one of the, probably after your decision to follow Christ, is probably the biggest thing, the biggest decision one will ever make, because it is a lifelong event, right? You marry someone, the plan is to marry for life, right? And it's one decision where one has to be extremely careful, prayerful, and let God lead you, because like Yinka said, if he made a decision himself, he would have made a decision based on one season of his life, not the whole expanse of his life. And when God told him to tear up that sheet of 3 years of work of crafting his perfect woman, that hurt deep, because you're like, wow. I like when he was talking about how the Holy Spirit told him, to tear up the sheet, and he says, tear up what sheet, and God tells him that, if I'm your Lord, you can't say no to the one you call Lord. And you're like, what, Lord? Do you know how I was writing these sheets? I remember too that I had a sheet, before I got married. We all had sheets that, oh Lord, this one I want call forth into, I think it's call forth into existence, as we call it. I used to call it then. And I had a list. And in fact, I remember one no on my list was to not marry a doctor. I was glaring. I just didn't want to marry a doctor. I was very clear about it. I was like, nope. Guess what? My husband is a doctor. And it was so funny when it happens. Like, of all the things that I said no to, this one is the one that happened. And it's interesting, but interesting how it is now. He's an academic doctor, but I just didn't want the doctor, the title doctor on my husband's name. That's what I didn't want. And it was so funny how actually now he bears the doctor title, because he has a PhD, and he's a doctor of academia in that sense. But it just shows to us that God's will and ways is different from our will and ways, and we can be stubborn and go ahead and go and disobey him, right? We could do that, but we get burnt. And Ika gave a very good example about how he tried and went the other way and disobeyed God, and he was there with me after I was saying, God, I'm sorry. And it happens to us. It happens to me several times where God says, don't do that, and I'll say, oh, but Lord, why? I don't see why I should not do it. And I go ahead and do it, and I get terribly burnt. Someone else could have done the same thing and not get burnt, but because I disobey God, I get terribly burnt. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the most of us. Again, we are all in a journey of submission. But you see, God didn't leave him there or leave me there when I made a mistake. God will leave the 99 for that one, for you and I, because of how much he loves us. And so whenever we feel like we have missed God, we have disobeyed God, remember that the devil's plan and purpose is to keep you in condemnation. But because you and I know the truth, right, we go back to God and ask for mercy, and things are renewed. let's not forget that point, because a lot of times the devil can hold you down in condemnation. I remember the time that God had asked me to do something. It was a while back, and I struggled. I didn't do it, and I felt so awful. I could not express how bad I felt. I was like, oh my God, how did I miss it? I was literally beating myself. I didn't realize that I had entered into condemnation, right? But thankful to God, I realized later, and I started to put myself back. It was hard, but then it just showed me how much God loves us. And it is, and like Inka said, it's the same heart of a pastor, right? When a pastor, no matter what your conscience does to you, whenever they have done something wrong, even if you want them to it and they go and do it, as a pastor, you will go and pull them out of that thing, and both of you suffer the same pain together as a pastor. It was a very interesting and unique experience, and I would encourage those that perhaps even if you are single, even if you're married, you have single friends, share with them. Because a lot of times we have this enormous list, of, oh God, I want this. You will name it, you classify it. You really, if it's one what's it called, one trait or one character that you want, you now have sub characters underneath it, like I did, right? But all those things, in the end, in the grand scheme of things, right, you only know what you know. God knows your life from the beginning to the end. So if you want to focus on what you know now, how much will it bring you? You probably have someone perfect for now, but when things need to change in future, you will struggle with that person, because the person is not called to be that person for your life. So I'll stop there and say, please have a think. If you are in a type of position where God asks you to submit something to Him and you are struggling, please listen and learn again. And I pray that gives you the encouragement to obey what God is asking you to do. So thank you for listening to me today, and God bless you. God bless you. I love you. Bye.